You've been lying down there for a while now. You're not sleeping. And you're not really scrolling either. Just existing. Watching other people's highlight reels without even registering what you're seeing. And somewhere underneath all that noise, underneath the TikToks and the LinkedIn posts and the group chats where everyone seems to have a plan, there's this quiet, low-grade ache. You don't even know what it is exactly. It's not sadness. It's not failure. It's something harder to name. It's the feeling of not knowing where you're going. And if that sounds familiar, then this video is for you. This is Daniel. And guess what? Nothing is wrong with Daniel. He's in his 3rd year of university. He's got friends. He goes to class. He's not failing. He's not depressed, at least not in any way he can clearly explain. But every time someone asks him what he wants to do after graduation, something in his chest tightens. He says, "I'm still figuring it out." Which sounds fine. Except it's been 3 years of saying that. He's always switching interest. He started a YouTube channel and abandoned it after 4 videos. He signed up for a coding course at midnight and never opened Module 2. He has a notes app full of ideas that he's never acted on. And the weird thing is, it's not like Daniel is lazy. If there's anything, he's exhausted. He's constantly thinking about his future. Constantly comparing himself to people who seem to have it together. Constantly feeling like he should be doing something, but never knowing what that something actually is. That's not laziness. That's what it feels like to lack clarity. And clarity is what 80% of young people struggle with. Lacking clarity isn't just not knowing what job you want. It goes deeper than that. When you lack clarity, you can't make decisions that feel real. Every option feels equally possible and equally wrong. You start things and stop them because you're not sure why you started them in the first place. Think about it this way. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a thick, dark forest at night. You can walk in any direction, but because you can't see anything clearly, every direction feels dangerous. So you just stand there. And then you blame yourself for not moving. That's what it feels like inside Daniel's head. That's probably what it feels like inside yours sometimes too. Lacking clarity shows up as chronic comparison, starting and stopping, overthinking decisions until they rot, feeling busy but not achieving anything. And the cruelest part is that the world doesn't pause while you're confused. Life keeps moving. And so the confusion starts to feel like failure. But the truth is, it's just unclarity. And clarity is a skill, not a personality trait, which means it can be developed. So one night, Daniel did something different. He stopped trying to figure out his whole future. And instead, he wrote one question at the top of a blank page. What actually bothers me? Notice he didn't continue with, not what do I want to be, or what should I do? Instead, he asked himself, what makes me angry or frustrated or genuinely lit up? And something shifted. He wrote for 20 minutes without stopping. He wrote about how much he hates that mental health is treated like a luxury. He wrote about a younger cousin who dropped out because no one helped him understand his options. He wasn't solving his career. He wasn't making a 5-year plan. But for the first time in a long time, he could see something. A thread. A direction. Something real. That's the beginning of clarity. And here's what I want you to understand about that moment, because it matters. Clarity didn't arrive because Daniel got more information. He didn't read another article or take another quiz. Clarity started when he got honest. When he stopped performing and started listening to himself. Naval Ravikant, the entrepreneur and philosopher who spent a lot of time thinking about what actually creates a good life, he says something I keep coming back to. He talks about how clarity of thought, above almost everything else, is what separates people who drift from people who move. He argues that most of us are confused not because the world is too complex, but because we haven't been willing to sit quietly enough to hear what we actually think. And look, I know that sounds simple. Maybe too simple. But think about the last time you actually sat with your own thoughts for more than 4 minutes without a screen in your hand. Exactly. Clarity is not certainty. It's not knowing exactly what you'll be doing in 5 years. Clarity doesn't mean zero doubt. Clarity means you know enough about yourself and what matters to you that you can take the next step and mean it. When a person has clarity, they don't necessarily have a perfect plan, but they have something better, a compass. They know their own values. They have some sense of what they're moving toward and why. They can say yes or no to things and actually feel it, not just say the words. Clarity in life looks like this. You stop making decisions based purely on fear or pressure, or what looks good to other people. You start making choices that feel genuinely yours, even when they're small, even when they're imperfect. Steve Jobs said it plainly at Stanford in 2005. He said the only way to do great work is to love what you do, and the only way to find that is to not settle. But what people miss in that speech is what he said before the famous part. He talked about connecting dots backwards, about how clarity often only comes in hindsight from a decision you made with limited information. You don't always get clarity before you act. Sometimes you get it because you acted. Daniel didn't wait until he was certain. He just wrote in a journal. He just followed the thread. And that small act gave him just enough light to take one more step. Now, is clarity always good? Let me be honest with you. Clarity can be uncomfortable. When you get clear on what you want, you also get clear on what you have to let go of. You might realize a relationship isn't right. A career path you've been on isn't yours. A version of yourself you've been performing is exhausting you. That's hard. Real clarity costs something. But the alternative, living in permanent fog, drifting between other people's expectations and your own paralysis, that costs more. It costs years. It costs your energy. It costs the quiet, private version of your self-respect that no one else can see but you feel every day. So yes, clarity is a good thing. Not because it's easy, but because it's honest. And living honestly, even imperfectly, even slowly, is the only way forward that actually feels like yours. Daniel didn't fix his life that night in the library. He still had hard days, still doubted himself, still got it wrong sometimes. But he had something he didn't have before. He could see a little further ahead. And that small amount of light, that was enough to move. So, if you're in the fog right now, I want to say this directly. You don't need a revelation. You don't need a big sign from the universe. You don't need to have it all figured out before you're allowed to start. You just need to ask yourself one honest question. And actually sit with the answer. What actually matters to you? Not what should matter. Not what would look good. What actually does. Because clarity isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build. One quiet, honest moment at a time. I'll see you in the next one.